Hey guys, Pokeversity here, and this is my Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire speculation video. And I still haven't got used to saying Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, so if I stutter on that, that's why. So, let's talk about news that's up and coming. Tomorrow at about 11:30 PM, Greenwich Mean Time over here in the UK, we should be seeing some footage of these new games arriving for us. I suppose it's being aired in Japan at like 7:30 in the morning, which means about 11:30 over here. The same is happening in America, but you guys will get it at about 3:30. And also, we're getting Korokoro in a few days, so stay tuned for information regarding what's in the Korokoro, because I'm sure we might see some new details. So the first thing I really want to talk about is the naming of these games. Now, the Alpha and the Omega, people have speculated that it's due to Team Aqua and Team Magma having similar symbols in their names. I think this is merely coincidental. Either that, or they were trying to kind of tie in the way that the Alpha and the Omega look in comparison to the markings on Kyogre and Groudon's hands. Just my opinion. But personally, I think this relates more to beginning and the end. Now, Alpha is the first letter in the Greek alphabet, and Omega is the last. And I think this could tie in a lot more with the Kyogre, Groudon, Rayquaza kind of plotline of these gods are trying to destroy the world, and Team Aqua and Team Magma are trying to make them destroy the world. So I think that's much more plausible. This might be more of like a darker look on the storyline. Either that or it'll just be a direct adaptation. But either way, I'm pretty sure that we can see some awesome footage of Kyogre going up against Groudon instead of that quick little jumpy aroundy cinematic that we had in the previous games. So the next thing I want to talk about, and this kind of relates to what I was just talking about, is will these games actually be remakes, or will they be a new adventure in a new world? Now, the trailers kind of advertise it as a new adventure in a new world, but the thing that you have to bear in mind is these games came out quite a long time ago. In fact, I think it was over 10 years ago now. I think Ruby and Sapphire hit American shores in 2003, or at least in Japan it came out then. So this is highly possible. It's highly possible that people are just advertising, that Nintendo are just advertising this as a new world and a new adventure, because a lot of the old fan base, with the exception of some of the diehards, have moved. They've gone away from this plotline. So this, to the younger generation, will look like a new world and a new adventure, which is good. We're bringing people into the fold. But the possibility of it being a sequel, and maybe actually a new world, is another possibility. And when we get some of the gameplay footage tomorrow, we will know. We also know, because of the way that previous games have conducted their sequels, that we might still get some new areas. In Heart Gold and Soul Silver, we had the Safari Zone route to the west of Cianwood City. Yeah, Cianwood City. And in Fire Red and Leaf Green, we had the Sevi Isles, which were completely new areas. So it's possible in this game we would get completely new areas as well. But we'll have to wait and see when the games come out, because I don't think we'll get too much information about that prior to release. But who knows? But furthermore, along the lines of whether they're remakes or not, we could always see a sequel. We could always see a completely different plotline whereby the hero was unsuccessful and the world has now changed dramatically. And this is another theory that was being talked about. Maybe in Ruby and Sapphire, they're two different versions, and there's more water in the Sapphire version, although I really don't need to see that, and if that's the case, Sapphire will be ruined for me. And in the Ruby version, there's even more ground. Because of the reasons I just said, though, I can't see them doing that way, but it would be a nice little touch. But we'll have to wait and see for that one as well. So now let's talk about a feature that I'd really like to see come back, and I'm sure you can all predict it because you probably all want it back too, and that's walking Pokemon that follow you, like in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. This was an amazing feature in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. It really made you feel immersed, and it really made you feel attached to these Pokemon. You know, seeing little Bayleaf following you around, for example, or having your Quagsire dope around after you, absolutely fantastic. This feature I want to see back, because I really want my Mudkip to follow me everywhere. Plus, this is in 3D. We would be seeing the 3D modelling of these Pokemon following you around, and that would just be amazing. There's been some weird concept arts already released, but I'm not going to show them here because they look too much like actual gameplay shots, and it's not actually the case, unless these really are leaks. So, the next thing that I want to talk about is new Megas. Now, we all know that Blaziken has a Mega Evolution, but what about Sceptile and Swampert? Doesn't that give players who choose Blaziken an unfair advantage? Well, there's two ways of looking at this. Blaziken may have his Mega Evolution, but maybe Swampert and Sceptile do too, and maybe we'll see those Mega Evolutions pretty soon. In fact, they might even be in the gameplay footage tomorrow, or they might even be in Korokoro. The other way to look at this, however, is that we won't be receiving a Mega Ring during the main storyline, and therefore, if we actually do get Megas anywhere in this game, it won't be until the post-game, and therefore people who chose Blaziken don't have an unfair advantage, because by that point everyone would be able to get their Mudkips and Tricos, and they'd be able to trade them on GTS for Torchics. This is my least favourable option, obviously, but it's a possibility nonetheless. Other Megas that we might see Sableye, because we have Mawile, and Mawile was a version exclusive, so why not give Sableye one? This is a possibility. Apparently a trademark for Jinx was also filed at the same time as all of the others, and in fact this was one of the few that I actually found that was trademarked and never announced to the general public. So we'll have to wait and see with that one. The other thing that we know is we got those Latios and Latias screenshots a little while ago of the purple Mega Latios and Mega Latias, and that still hasn't come through yet. Now I'm wondering, because those are technically in X and Y and we haven't found any other Megas in X and Y, there's two questions that this raises. One, will there be any other Mega Evolutions? Bearing in mind that you cannot trade Megastones through the Pokemon Bank and you have to do it version to version, this might imply that there are no new Mega Evolutions and we just have to go with what we've got. And in that kind of situation, damn it, I really want to see new Megas. We'll have to wait and see what's announced, of course. But maybe Latios and Latias are the only new Megas. But that's no fun. Let's talk about ones that we might see. Now, when X and Y came out, apparently trademarks for Mega Plusle and Mega Minun were trademarked. I don't really want to see this happen. Pikachu doesn't have a Mega Evolution, Raichu doesn't have a Mega Evolution. Why do we need Plusle and Minun? I mean, Pachirisu doesn't, and neither does Dedenne, even though we haven't seen those new ones. Emolga doesn't, even though none of Generation 5 do either. So, who knows? Maybe we'll see some new ones. Also, the thing is, there's a lot of Gen 3 Pokemon in Gen 3, obviously, but like, most of the Pokemon in that game were new Pokemon, and the problem with adding new Megas is we already have 8 for Generation 3, and Gen 1, we had 10 for Gen 1. There was a lot of Gen 1 Pokemon in Ruby and Sapphire, like Alakazam and other Pokemon. so maybe we won't really see any new Megas. That would be majorly disappointing if we didn't. Finally, there was also a trademark apparently filed for Mega Rayquaza, which might mean we might see Mega Groudon, Mega Kyogre, and Mega Rayquaza. Also, that's going to make pronouncing the Mega Stones very difficult for me, because Rayquazite doesn't roll off the tongue exactly, or Groudonite. Not the best names, but we'll wait and see. So, the next thing that I'd like to talk about is some features that I'd like to see come back, some features I'd like to see improved. And I'm just going to roll through these really quickly because this video is getting a little bit long. The first thing I'd like to see is a better use of the Pokénav. I don't think it was particularly well implemented previously. The rematch function on it wasn't as good as it possibly could have been, so I'd like to see this maybe expanded on to some extent. I don't really know how you do it though. Maybe have the Pokénav on the bottom screen and be able to navigate through different menus that way. That'd be a really good way of dealing with the Pokénav, because often I feel the bottom screen is neglected, so maybe we could do this with the Pokénav. The other thing I'd like to see is a better use of Dive. Now, with Dive, it was okay, it was useful for getting into Moss Deep City, is that it? Other than that, it was pretty much useless. It was used for getting into that abandoned submarine and a couple of other places. But I'd really like to see them expand Dive and make it more of an enriching environment and not just find clam pearls and relicants on the bottom of the sea. Find some new stuff. Maybe even a new area. Because we were talking before about how the other regions have added other areas, like the Sevi Isles and the routes to the west of Cianwood City. I'd like to see a new area maybe hidden underwater somewhere. That could be pretty interesting. I still want to see character customizability. As much as I love the Brendan and May designs that we have for Ruby and Sapphire, I'd like to be able to customize them. And especially because these are remakes, I'd like to be able to customize them to their Emerald counterparts as well, because I really enjoyed the update that they got for Emerald. Now the next question that really hovers is, what do we do with contests? Because we don't really have the beauty and the toughness and the cool meters, the attribute wheel that we had where you give them Pokeblocks. I don't really know how I'd like to see this resolved. Maybe just scrap that system altogether and stick a new one in. Keep contests, but find a way to make them a bit more enriching and a bit more interesting. I don't really have a suggestion for how I would do this, but I think it's worth noting that I think they could be done better, especially with the newer technologies that we have. Pokeblocks also brings me on to the point of berries. Now, I much preferred the way that X and Y handle berries, where there's only one fixed place where you can grow berries. This way you always knew where you had berries planted. It didn't get as confusing. I remember playing Diamond and Pearl and I always lost my berries. So this was a much better way. I also like the way that Heart Gold and Soul Silver handled this with the berry pots. So maybe in Ruby and Sapphire we could do the same method that they've done with Heart Gold and Soul Silver, X and Y, and have the big berry trees and just go and get one, and then you go and plant them at some new location. Maybe on that route with all the berries, the either at the Berry Master's house, or that would restrict you for quite a while, or at the place where you get the Welmer Pail. That would be a pretty good idea in my opinion. And finally, I would like to see the Battle Frontier return. I never really played it that much in Emerald, but I think it would be a pretty good feature to add back in. I think it would be pretty interesting to have there. So I think that actually rounds it up for my little speculation video here, and what I'd like to see, what I think we might see. Of course, tomorrow we will know a little bit more, and then I will post another video telling you guys what we know, and I will be posting other videos as more news comes out. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe if you want to see more Pokemon content. Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you guys want to see in these new games. And if you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up button. Thank you very much for watching once again, guys, and I will see you guys next time.